If you strip it away, there's actually not a lot going on for Deadpool or Wolverine. This piece, at least for me, didn't do what the other two Deadpool movies did, which was make me want to cry. There's actually very little dramatic story happening. Everything is just the genre elements, cameos, the Easter eggs, and these big set pieces. With all of that said, let's talk about my favorite set piece in Deadpool. I'm Jacob Kruger, and this is the Write Your Screenplay podcast, where instead of judging screenplays 2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down, we look at them for what we can learn as writers. For those of you who have watched my previous 2 podcasts on Deadpool, you know that this is one of my favorite franchises because of the way that in a totally lighthearted, metafilmic, poking fun at itself, we're not going to get deep kind of way, it still manages to deal with really deep and profound issues. That doesn't mean that there's not a ton we can learn from it. And primarily, we're going to be using today to talk about set pieces. A set piece is a badass location where we've never seen this kind of thing happen in this kind of way before. And we're going to learn how you can use this concept in any form of screenwriting. All action movies are built like musicals. Now, that might seem like a really weird concept. What could be more different than an action movie and a musical? But as we're about to see from Deadpool, the construction, the actual basic concept is exactly the same. In a musical, everything exists to serve the arias, right? In opera, they call them arias. In musical, they call them musical numbers, right? They take your very best scenes and they grab them, they pull them out of the script, and they turn them into musical sequences, right? Because everything is there to serve the music. The same thing is true with action movies. In action movies, everything is built to serve the set pieces, to serve the big action sequences that are going to be the framework of the movie. And the story exists in order to build in a dramatic way to that. So underneath a successful action movie, and I'm not talking commercially successful, I'm talking about dramatically successful. If you pulled all the action away, you'd have a beautiful, dramatic story. And if you look at the way that every single Deadpool is built, it's always built around a guy who wants a girl. When we get to Deadpool 3, now just some minor spoilers ahead, Vanessa, of course, is back. Deadpool once again has found himself back in the same place of trying to be worthy of Vanessa in the wrong ways. And the writers have to find some way over the course of the movie, by learning something real about himself that changes his values, for him to actually earn Vanessa, just not in the way that he thinks. In episode 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, it's going to be by understanding the value of friendship. Okay, so far it sounds like a Deadpool movie. For me, what's missing from Deadpool versus Wolverine is actually the structure underneath all of that. So we understand the way the engine of Deadpool works. We understand that those foundations are there. We understand that the dramatic story in Deadpool, 1, 2, or 3, is always there in order to allow, to build to be expressed through the action sequences. And now let's define set piece, right? Each action sequence is going to take place inside of a set piece. So in fact, if you are an independent filmmaker, one of the first steps before you even start writing your film, if you're going to produce it yourself on a very low budget, you can just make a list of the cool locations you have access to. Don't shoot in a bar because this scene should happen in a bar. You can ask yourself, well, what would happen if it happened on a carousel? What would happen if it occurred on a beach, right? You can play with the where. If you're an action movie writer, you want to think of what are cool locations that I have not seen fight sequences in before, that I have not seen chase sequences in before. And those different kinds of action sequences serve different purposes. But they all need to do the same thing. Set pieces are not just there to provide spectacle. The set pieces are there to drive the dramatic emotional story forward. So when you're writing your action sequence, this is the most important part. You've got to think of them as dramatic sequences. What that means is, on the page, it's even more important. We don't get away with some of the stuff that these franchise writers do, right? We must have the dramatic action. In other words, there needs to be an emotional transaction happening inside of your action sequence. And in fact, that emotional transaction is more important than the action transaction. So in this way, you can actually write your action movie just like a musical. You might actually keep your eye on what's actually transpiring between the characters. How are they changing? How are they changing each other? Why does this matter? What does this say? What am I tapping into in me? And then you're going to pull out any sequences that are not action, and you're going to start to go, okay, could this be action? What kind of action sequence would contain this? It's literally just a matter of going what are my dramatic scenes that aren't currently action? And how could I let the same scene happen amid some action, right? How could I drop this into an action sequence? What is a set piece, right? What is a location that makes sense in this movie that would be super fun where I haven't seen an action sequence like this before? Now, I'm going to talk to you about one of those action sequences inside of Deadpool. But first, I want to talk about why Deadpool and Wolverine, for me, fell so far short of the previous movies. See, there's another genre element that they're doing here, right? It's one of those classic Marvel Easter egg and cameo deals, right? They're dropping in 1,000 other characters and references to the Marvel universe and little Easter eggs for the people who love this to go, oh, isn't that? Oh, I think that's, oh my God, I can't believe they did that, right? There are all these in jokes, and in a way that fits into what Deadpool is, right? Deadpool is, we talked about metafilm with the Fall Guy, right? Deadpool takes that to a whole other level. In fact, some of the best jokes in Deadpool versus Wolverine are jokes about 20th Century Fox being consumed by Disney. So Deadpool takes metafilm to a whole new level, and it has all these Easter eggs and all these little things that remind you you're watching a movie. This is a movie about a movie. We're not going to pretend it's not a movie. So you have those genre elements that they're serving, and then you have the big set pieces that they're serving, right? And so we have lots of different set pieces, right? We have the Mad Max looking set piece, right? And they're not even pretending that they're not doing a Mad Max set piece, right? Nothing actually human is actually transpiring. What we're watching is two characters who both cannot die march around with great style through a bunch of pre-plotted set pieces. Then as the piece continues, we are going to get some more themes, right? So Deadpool is going to go to battle with hundreds of other versions of himself. Now, this is actually an opportunity to do what Deadpool does best, right? To actually wrestle with what does it mean to fight yourself? In what way is Deadpool fighting himself, right? In what way is the battle between Deadpool's different visions of himself? That's really smart, but it's not developed, right? So what's happened is the writers haven't chosen any one theme. The dramatic content isn't there, even though all the set pieces are. So we get this fabulous battle sequence between Deadpool and all the other Deadpools. Even one Deadpool who's handsome Deadpool. But none of that's developed on a human level. Wolverine's on one journey about guilt. Deadpool's on another journey that has two different themes to it. Realizing your friends are what matter and battling different versions of yourself. And so if you remember, yes, we're going to talk about set pieces. Yes, set pieces are important. Yes, everything serves the set piece. But if you just construct your plot to create the set piece, rather than creating your plot dramatically in other words, a character's journey in relation to a unifying theme, your set pieces are likely to fall flat. And I would suggest to you, if you have never seen Wolverine and you had never seen Deadpool and you didn't love those characters already, if you knew nothing about the Marvel Universe, if you didn't have all those Easter eggs to distract you, if you were coming in blind and this was the first Deadpool movie you saw, you probably wouldn't see number 2. Whereas you can't see Deadpool 1 and not want to see Deadpool 2 and even Deadpool 3. Okay. So, you understand the concept of serving a theme. You understand the idea that your set pieces are really just the container inside which your dramatic story moves forward. You understand the idea that when you're writing these kinds of things, you want to pull out your best scenes and think, how can I do it in action? You've connected to the idea that, okay, I'm going to choose cool locations that I haven't seen fight sequences in before. Through our quick discussion of Deadpool versus all the other Deadpools, you've probably even realized that by writing the set pieces that come to you organically, you can even start to figure out your theme. Hey, if this whole thing is going to culminate with Deadpool fighting thousands of versions of himself, doesn't that say something about the war inside of himself? Right? That maybe this movie needs to build to that. Maybe that's what it's really about. Maybe it's the possibilities of who he could have been that Deadpool really needs to wrestle with, rather than these other themes that have been pasted on, right? So we have to start making choices in our themes. We have to start slicing good stuff away so that we have time and room to fully explore and focus to fully explore the theme that really matters. And by the way, this is exactly how you deal with crappy notes. And how do you know it's a crappy note? You know it's a crappy note anytime anyone is telling you exactly what to do. Unless that thing is derived so clearly out of what is already there. You know when somebody tells you, hey, here's what's wrong, here's how you should fix it. Hey, what if they did this? Hey, what if they did that? Guess what? That's a bad note. What a good note is somebody having a conversation with you, asking you what you're trying to achieve and helping you figure out those ideas yourself, right? Helping you understand what's already working and what's not working and pointing you gently in a direction that allows you to come up with your own answers, because in your answers, that's where the theme is really going to be hidden. Okay. So when you speak to a producer, when you are lucky enough to get on a movie, you should lead with theme. But don't lead with your theme. You want to actually start by talking to them about their theme. What's it about for you? And it's okay, they're going to have trouble articulating it. They're producers, they're not writers. It's a different job. But you want to help them tease it out without pushing it, right? You don't want to share too much about your theme. You really want to understand theirs. Because once you understand what their theme is, you got to figure out, where does my theme and their theme meet, right? If you have lots of different producers in the room, you actually have to have a negotiation about what it's about so that everyone gets on the same page so that you're all building the same movie. And if you lead with theme, that theme will save you from the development hell that ends up taking a great franchise like this and diffusing it. Because you have the best writers, you have the best directors, you have the best actors, you have the best everything in the world on this movie, right? But when you have too many factors that are fighting with each other, we don't get an emotional reaction. Okay. With all of that said, let's talk about my favorite set piece in Deadpool. My favorite set piece in Deadpool. There is a fight inside of a Honda Odyssey. Now, the Honda Odyssey is a minivan, and it's part of the running gag that runs through the piece, right? We're going to take these two badass action heroes, right? Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Who are total opposites, and we're sending them on a road trip movie. So let's send them on a road trip in a frickin' Honda Odyssey, right? The most ironic possible car for them. Right. We have a challenge because they're going to be fighting each other the whole thing. Of course they are. It's a Marvel movie, right? This is how they work. This is how every Avengers movie works, right? Because at the center of Deadpool versus Wolverine, just like at the center of an Avengers movie, you have people who cannot die. You have people who instantly heal. You have people who have ultimate superpowers, right? So when Deadpool and Wolverine fight, sure, I guess it hurts, but we know they're just going to regenerate, right? We know it's not a fight where anything is actually at stake. And that means the only things that are at stake are whatever the emotional dramatic stakes are between the characters as they fight. And then the humor, irony, fun, surprises we get through the set pieces that are chosen for those fights to take place. So we get a fight inside of a crappy minivan, right? And if you watch that sequence, I want you to notice how many different crazy ways that minivan is used, right? The face smashed into the console, the seatbelt used as a weapon. There's a moment where they literally explode through the roof of it, right? Shoot through the window, bounce into the outside of it, right? All the different ways that it's used. So when you have a set piece, you want to remember everything in that set piece has a potential to be activated. You want to think about what are the not obvious things. You want to think about what are the things I can use wrong? What are the things I can use in surprising ways, right? What are the things that are going to be visually spectacular? And what that is going to give you is a sequence that grabs our eyeballs, right? That makes us go, oh, I haven't seen that before. Oh, that's fun. Oh, how I see that's going to be amazing. In the screenplay, we have to give an impressionistic version of that, right? It cannot be beat by beat by beat, frame by frame by frame, like the director is going to shoot it. Instead, like an impressionist artist, we have to give a view that feels like it, right? A snapshot of the feeling of what it's going to be like, the greatest hits of it, right? And we do that by play. We do that by finding a unique location and then playing, and then making things challenging, and making things surprising, and looking for the visual images that we have not seen before. So, on that note, sure, go see Deadpool versus Wolverine. You're going to have a great time. But then go back and watch the original Deadpool. Then go back and watch Deadpool 2. And I want you to see the difference when the theme is unified, when there's an emotional transaction underneath the action. And then take a look at your own screenplays, regardless of what genre you're working on. Drama, comedy, little indie experimental film. And ask yourself, have I set each scene in the most exciting location? Right? If you're spending $100 million like on a Deadpool movie, the more locations, the better. Just make sure they're cool. If you're writing a little indie drama, you really need to think about, like, what are the few locations I could use that are going to be actually awesome, that are going to be visually spectacular, that are going to make my trailer stand out from all the other trailers in this genre. It's so important, right? Because unlike the writers of Deadpool, if you're writing a little indie film, you don't have a huge marketing budget, right? You have a trailer that's got to make us go, oh. So think about the set pieces you're using, and then think about, have you threaded that emotional through line through them? Is there actually an emotional transaction of each scene, or are you just driving the plot forward? Is there a theme that is unifying everything, or are you still trying to do every idea at once? And when you start to make those hard choices, regardless of your genre, you are going to elevate and amplify every aspect of your screenwriting. I hope that you're enjoying this podcast and it's helping your writing. If you're getting a lot out of it, come study with us for free every Thursday night at my Thursday Night Writes class. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to know a community of hundreds of writers from all over the world, to connect with me and our other faculty members, and to see if our program is right for you.